Welcome to WagerTalk TV. We've got a big battle, big rivalry game in South Bend, Indiana, USC at Notre Dame, where the Irish are laying 3.5. I'm Scott Spreitzer. He's Matt Holt from CGT Sportsbooks in Las Vegas. The man under the hat with the shades is none other than Dave Cokin. Guys, as I mentioned, the number now 3.5, but Matt, you guys open the line 4. Got to tell you, my raw power ratings with Notre Dame being at home in this game, actually 6. Has this been sharp money bringing that number down, or amount of public tickets that have been doing it, Matt?
We've been kind of bouncing back and forth on this game. We opened 4, went down to 3.5, went back to 4, went back to 3.5. Just took a sharp bet on Notre Dame before I left today, went back to 4. It's going to be interesting to see where this one closes. Due to our proximity to Southern California, we tend to get more USC action. Thus, we tend not to want to have to, give any favorable numbers to USC here. But in the long run, the sharper players, the account action here is on the Irish at home. 23 players listed on the USC injury report last week. Only 4 of those played. That's 19 players out. This team may be as decimated as any major conference powerhouses in the country.
That's the problem, is when I open up an injury report midway through the week and I see, War and Peace. Basically, a Tolstoy novel is what that USC injury list reads like. It's just incredible. 24 players, as you mentioned. Dave, when I look at, first of all, Wimbush looks like he's going to play for Notre Dame at quarterback.
Yeah, he's not missing this game.
Yeah, and when I look at this team, though, I think defense. You can't pass against them. You can't run against them, talking about Notre Dame. They make nice adjustments in games. So does USC. But
yes,
even putting the injuries aside, I don't like the way Clay Helton and his staff has his team prepared at the start of the game for big contests.
Well, plus you've got, look, it's just such an enormous factor when it comes to deciding outcomes of football games. The turnovers. No, I mean, USC has had, 16 turnovers now? They've had 2 or more turnovers in every game this year. Notre Dame's forced 14 turnovers. That doesn't bode well for the Trojans. Now, there are some things USC does well in terms of matching up against Notre Dame. One thing on USC, if you look at their rushing yardage on defense, it's about 145, but a lot of that was in that first game against Western Michigan and about the first half of the Stanford game. The defensive line has really come together since then. They're doing a lot better job against the run, and if you can take away the run against Notre Dame, you probably beat Notre Dame. That's what Georgia did early in the season. Notre Dame's got these great ground game stats, but if you look at that one matchup against Georgia, I think they ran for 55 yards and about 1.5 yards per carry. If USC can keep them, it doesn't have to be quite that spectacular, but if they can keep them in that neighborhood, 2.5 yards per carry, USC will have a great chance to do it. But the injury factor is huge, and I just keep going back. Look, it's really tough to predict turnovers. All you can do is look at tendencies, and that's the big key here. 2+ in every single game this year. Darnold has managed to make critical mistakes, and I just think he could make them again here. I think it's a classic matchup, and it's not a game I'm going to play. If I had to play it, I guess I would lean toward Notre Dame because I think they're going to win the game and the line's less than a touchdown. But, boy, for me, this is more of a great view than a great bet.
I think facing Fromm also for Georgia wasn't easy on Notre Dame because, it was early in the season. You're not ready for that type of
They didn't know how good Georgia was.
Exactly.
Nobody did.
Well, we had him on the podcast. You remember we liked Georgia over Notre Dame in that particular game. But Matt, the Trojans, you got to make them what they are, as you said, because of the way the public bets USC games in Las Vegas. But 3-9 against the spread, last 12 on the road. They've dropped 5 in a row now against the spread. They're just always a tick overvalued because of what you got to do behind the counter.
Look, and we had to put together a percentage of every team's percentage chances of making the Final Four, the playoff, the college football playoff, not the Final Four. And look, USC at 20.5% was the highest ranked Pac-12 team, and this is an elimination game. The winner of this game springboards to still having life, still having a shot to make that elusive college football playoff. The loser's done. There is a lot on the line for both teams here. This is a big game, and trust me, every player on both teams know it's a big game. I think you're going to get a big effort here. Historically, USC has had better athletes than Notre Dame. Sure. Is that going to end up being the fact, or is it going to be the fact that Notre Dame wears them down at that run game because USC just doesn't have the bodies to throw in there enough to stay healthy and not get fatigued?
Do you have a play real quickly on this? Because I know Dave said it's more of a let's watch and learn some things about these two teams.
I like USC in this spot. I think in the last decade we looked, the one thing that's been consistent every year is that the USC has had the better athletes on the field every single year the last decade. I'm going to go ahead and take the more than a field field goal here with the USC Trojans.
And if I had to make a bet on the game, I'd probably go with the under.
Okay.
Because I think Notre Dame's running game is going to get stalled by USC to some extent. I don't expect USC to have great success running the ball themselves on Notre Dame. So to me, this could be a back-and-forth game. If the turnovers lead to defensive scores, that goes out the window. But if they don't, it stays under.
Well, let's really confuse everybody now, because this won't be part of my weekend package. This isn't going to be a monetary bet for me, but for opinion's sake, I like Notre Dame in this one, minus the 3.5. So we're all over the board in this one. Don't forget Thursday night podcast, both college football and the NFL. These two guys, along with me, Marco D'Angelo. Every Thursday night, Friday morning, we do a college football podcast and NFL podcast. They are free at WagerTalk.com all throughout the weekend leading right up to kickoff. More college football, NFL, and UFC to come. Stick around.